Did you know that riding a motorcycle is considered one of the most freeing experiences, but also 16 times more dangerous than driving a car? When I started riding, I thought I had it all figured out until reality hit me like a brick wall. The cold, way worse than I expected. And braking, I almost learned that lesson the hard way. In this video, I'm breaking down the 7 things I wish I knew before I ever threw a leg over a motorcycle, the kind of advice that could save you. So, whether you're just starting or thinking about getting your first bike, sticking around, it might just make your ride a whole lot safer and way more fun. Let's get into it. Number 1, temperature affects you more than you expect. Nobody told me just how much temperature can mess with you on a motorcycle, and honestly, I learned the hard way. You think 50 degrees Fahrenheit sounds pretty mild. Well, the moment you hit highway speeds, wind chill can drop that temperature by 20 degrees Fahrenheit or more, meaning you're basically riding in near freezing conditions. And if you're not layered up properly, your hands start going numb, your body stiffens up, and suddenly, even pulling in the clutch feels like a struggle. It's not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous, because cold muscles mean slower reaction times. And trust me, you don't want slow reactions when you're navigating traffic or an unexpected obstacle. Now, on the flip side, hot weather is just as brutal, if not worse. Sitting in stop-and-go traffic when it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside feels like standing in front of an open oven, except the oven is your bike. And it's cooking you alive. Your engine radiates heat straight into your legs. Your sweat turns into a sticky mess under your helmet. And dehydration kicks in faster than you realize. It's exhausting, and when you're overheated, your focus drops, making mistakes way more likely. Extreme temperatures aren't just discomfort, they're a serious safety concern. So if you're just getting into riding, don't make the mistake of underestimating the weather. Number 2, your visor and helmet setup can make or break your ride. When I first started riding, I thought picking a helmet was just about looking cool and staying legal. But man, I was so wrong. The visor setup you choose can literally make or break your ride. And if you get it wrong, you're in for a miserable and even dangerous experience. A lot of new riders, including me, slap on a dark tinted visor because it looks badass. But the first time you get caught riding at night with one, you're screwed. It's like riding with sunglasses on in a pitch black room. Your visibility drops to almost nothing, and suddenly, every pothole, turn, or car pulling out in front of you becomes a serious hazard. And it's not just about day versus night riding. If you're in colder or humid conditions, your visor will fog up like crazy. And if you've ever tried riding while blindly wiping your visor every few seconds, you know how sketchy that gets. That's why pinlock inserts or anti-fog coatings are a total game changer. Also, if you don't want to carry an extra clear visor for night riding, photochromic visors adjust to the light automatically. Seriously, one of the best investments you can make. Number 3, beginner bikes are more than enough. If there's one mistake I see way too many new riders make, it's falling for the speed trap believing that you need a big, powerful bike right out of the gate. Trust me, you don't. When I first started, I thought bigger engines equaled better riders. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Even a so-called beginner bike like a Yamaha R3 or Ninja 400 can out-accelerate most cars on the road, hitting 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 5 seconds. And something like an F650, that thing pulls harder than a Porsche 911. So if you think a 600cc or liter bike is the only way to have fun, you're setting yourself up for a bad time and maybe even a short riding career. The biggest problem? Throttle control and braking on a powerful bike aren't forgiving. Twist too much, and you're launching yourself into trouble before you even realize what's happening. That's why new riders on bigger bikes are 4 times more likely to crash than those who start on something manageable. A smaller bike lets you focus on fundamentals, cornering, braking, throttle control, without constantly fearing a whiskey throttle disaster. Number 4, countersteering is the most important skill that nobody teaches you. Nobody tells you this, but once you're going faster than 15 miles per hour, just leaning into a turn won't do much. If you actually want to steer correctly and safely, you need to push the handlebar in the opposite direction of where you want to go. Sounds weird, Push right, go right. Push left, go left. But this isn't just theory, it's how motorcycles physically work. Here's why it matters. Without countersteering, you can't make quick, precise turns, and in an emergency, like a car cutting you off, or a sharp curve appearing out of nowhere, you won't react fast enough. A study by the Motorcycle Safety Foundation found that riders who don't use countersteering properly are 60% more likely to run wide in a turn and end up in oncoming traffic or off the road. And trust me, that's a situation you never want to be in. Number 5. Braking technique saves lives. Braking is what actually saves lives. Anybody can twist the throttle, but knowing how to slow down properly, especially in an emergency, is what separates skilled riders from those who end up in the ER. And here's the scary part. 1/3 of all motorcycle crashes happen because the rider didn't brake correctly. Most beginners overuse the rear brake because it feels safer, but the truth is, 70% or more of your stopping power comes from the front brake. If you don't use it properly, your stopping distance doubles, which could be the difference between a close call and a collision. But here's the flip side. If you grab a handful of front brakes too hard, you risk locking up the front wheel and going down instantly. So instead of slamming the brakes, smoothly squeeze the front lever while applying just enough rear brake to stay balanced. In an emergency, that technique can reduce stopping distance by up to 40%, according to motorcycle safety studies. Number 6. Road hazards are more dangerous than you think. When you're driving a car, things like gravel, potholes, train tracks, or wet leaves are just minor annoyances. But on a motorcycle, they can put you on the ground in an instant. Nobody told me just how dangerous the smallest road hazards can be until I had my first near wipeout on a patch of loose gravel mid-turn. 1 second, everything felt fine. Then my front tire lost grip, and I was one panic reaction away from eating pavement. That's how fast it happens. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reports that 25% of single-vehicle motorcycle crashes are caused by road debris or surface hazards. And the worst part? Most of them are avoidable if you know what to look for. Wet leaves, slick as ice. Metal surfaces like manhole covers or bridge grates, zero traction when wet. Potholes? Hit one wrong and your suspension bottoms out, or that your front wheel gets kicked sideways. Even painted road markings become a slip and slide in the rain. The key to avoiding these? Always scan the road ahead, not just right in front of you, but way up the road. If you see gravel or a pothole, adjust your line early, don't panic, and stay smooth on the controls. Number 7. Motorcycles are expensive. Nobody tells you this when you're dreaming about getting your first bike, but motorcycles are way more expensive than they seem. You see a used Ninja 400 for $5,000 and think, cool, I can afford that. But that's just the beginning. The real cost of riding hits you like a freight train once you start adding up all the essentials. Here's the breakdown of what you're actually looking at. Bike, $5,000 to $10,000. Helmet, jacket, gloves, boots, and pants, $800 to $1,500. Insurance, $500 to $1,500 per year. Tires, $300 to $500 per set maintenance. $300 to $1,000 per year. MSF, or safety courses, $200 to $500. And that's just the basics. Once you get hooked, you'll start looking at better gear, bike mods, riding trips, track days, or maybe even a second bike, and suddenly, you're spending more money than you ever expected. I'm not saying don't do it. Riding is 100% worth it, but don't go in thinking it's a cheap hobby.